Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. President Biden announcing the framework for his social spending and climate agenda. He says he believes the overview is enough to get progressives on board, but is it enough? The White House signaling flexibility for President Biden's vaccine mandate deadline. It comes as Republicans push for exemptions and protests are erupting against the mandate. General Mark Milley confirms that China tested hypersonic weapons this summer, calling the information very concerning. He's the first Pentagon official to confirm the tests. And for the first time, Taiwan President Tsai has confirmed the presence of U.S. troops on Taiwanese soil. She says she has faith the United States will help defend her country if China invades. Fossil fuel executives are set to testify on alleged climate disinformation at a House oversight hearing today. It's the first time executives of major fossil fuel companies and industry groups will testify before Congress about climate disinformation and the alleged role their organizations have played in it. Heads from ExxonMobil, BP America, Chevron, Shell Oil, the American Petroleum Institute, and the U.S. Chamber of Congress will appear before the committee. The hearing follows reports that the fossil fuel industry has taken part in campaigns aimed at creating confusion about climate issues or sowing skepticism in science. The White House announced President Biden's spending bill framework this morning. The president told reporters he's optimistic it's enough to get progressives to pass the smaller infrastructure bill, but some progressives say a framework isn't enough. They want legislative text. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Progressives are warning Democrat leaders they might vote no on the stalled bipartisan infrastructure package, unless there's a concrete deal on the larger social spending and climate bill.
Right now, there are over 36 members, and that number is only increasing, who feel very strongly that these two bills need to move together.
And the president can convince you to change your mind.
I don't think so.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi hopes to hold a vote on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill as soon as this week. But progressives are concerned there aren't enough details yet on the larger social spending plan. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying,
I think we need to have certainty, either through legislative text, through uniform agreements, that we can trust, because there's been so many changes in this process.
The White House spokeswoman questioned why any Democrats would vote against the infrastructure bill, which includes measures for clean water and expanded internet access.
If you look at the infrastructure package, there are components of that a lot of members are going to have to look inside their hearts and question what they're for or against.
Progressives saying they've had to sacrifice some of their priorities, like paid family leave and free community college. The price tag's also been cut to around $1.75 trillion. And Democrats are undecided on how to help pay for it. Not everyone's on board with the new billionaire's tax proposal.
People in the stratosphere, rather than trying to penalize them, we ought to be pleased that this country is able to produce the wealth.
Moderate Joe Manchin says he prefers a 15% flat tax, but others think the billionaire's tax is necessary.
What we need to do is find a way to make sure that those who are the very, very rich, these 700 people, are paying something. If what they can do is hold on to the stock and take a loan out against it and not pay the taxes on it, then they're not paying their fair share.
Democrats can't afford to lose any votes in the Senate, and they can only lose 3 votes in the House. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
The United Auto Workers Union backs the Biden administration's proposal for tougher vehicle fuel economy requirements, but the group doesn't support the call for even stricter requirements. The union outlined its position in written comments to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. In August, the NHTSA and the Environmental Protection Agency proposed new, tougher vehicle and efficiency and emissions rules. That's after the Trump administration rolled back Obama-era requirements. The Consumer Federation of America urged NHTSA to adopt stricter rules, saying it would save consumers cash, while the Sierra Club environmental group says the proposed rules allow loopholes. A group of 22 state attorneys general also has demands, but the United Auto Workers Union says the NHTSA rules strike the right balance, and if they were any stricter, they would be difficult to achieve. The union also notes that the push for stricter standards doesn't acknowledge industry disruptions in recent years. General Mark Milley confirms that China tested hypersonic weapons this summer. The top general is the first one from the Pentagon to verify the test. He also referenced media reports that likened the test to a Sputnik moment.
We had some
America's top general, Mark Milley, is the first military official to confirm China's hypersonic weapons test. Here's what he told Bloomberg in an interview that aired Wednesday.
What we saw was a very significant event of a test of a hypersonic weapon system, and it is very concerning. I think I saw in some of the newspapers they used the term Sputnik moment.
According to a Financial Times report earlier this month, China launched a nuclear-capable hypersonic weapon into space, and it orbited the Earth. These weapons can easily evade traditional missile defense systems and attack virtually anywhere, including the U.S. China denies the hypersonic test, saying it launched a space vehicle instead. A Pentagon spokesman declined to comment Wednesday on China's tests or on Milley's remarks about the test.
We've been very clear about our concerns over China's advancements in certain capabilities, a wide range of capabilities that the Secretary noted himself do very little to help decrease tensions in the region and beyond.
But the Pentagon says the U.S. military is also working on hypersonic weapons, and they'll be part of the defense budget. The department also says China's activities will get factored into the Global Posture Review and the upcoming National Defense Strategy.
Our own pursuit of hypersonic capabilities is real, it's tangible, and we are absolutely working towards being able to develop that capability.
Last week, the U.S. military conducted 3 successful tests of the hypersonic weapon component prototypes. Those parts will inform development of new weapons. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki also commented on Milley's remarks Wednesday. She said the White House shares Milley's concerns about China's military modernization efforts. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also said the U.S. is closely watching China's development of advanced weapons systems.
For the first time in decades, Taiwan's president has acknowledged the presence of U.S. troops on the island. In an interview with CNN this week, Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen said she believes the United States will defend Taiwan should Beijing attack.
In a CNN interview that aired Wednesday night, Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen publicly confirmed the presence of U.S. troops in Taiwan for the first time in 40 years. Speaking of escalating tensions with China and the support of the United States, Tsai acknowledged that U.S. forces are training on the island, though she didn't reveal the exact number of U.S. military personnel.
Does that support include sending some U.S. service members to help train Taiwanese troops?
Well, yes, we have a wide range of cooperation with the U.S. Aiming at increasing our defense capability.
How many U.S. service members are deployed in Taiwan right now?
Not as many as people thought.
Tsai also expressed confidence that the United States would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Do you have faith that the United States would defend Taiwan if the mainland were to try to move on Taiwan?
I do have faith, and given the long-term relationship that we have with the U.S. and also the support of the people of the U.S. as well as the Congress and the administration has been very helpful.
Tsai added that the threat from China is increasing every day. Earlier this month, Beijing sent a record number of warplanes into the sky around the self-ruled island. Taiwan's defense minister said military tensions with Beijing are at their worst point in decades, and that China could launch a full-scale war by 2025. But meanwhile, large arms sales and high-profile official visits from the United States have bolstered Taiwan's international standing. During her interview, Tsai mentioned she is willing to sit down with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping to talk about the differences in their political systems, so as to make arrangements that may lead to peaceful coexistence.
A Marine's remains that were missing for almost 78 years are finally buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Private First Class Harold W. Hayden of Norwood, Ohio, fought in World War II. The Defense Department says he died during the Battle of Tarawa in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The military believed his remains were lost. A nonprofit called History Flight discovered them near where he died and a lab verified the body was Hayden's. His brother says it's exhilarating to know Hayden's body is finally home on U.S. soil. Hayden was 19 years old when he died. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is announcing the details of his department's modernization plan. The topics related to China changed. Let's take a look at his plan.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken explained the modernization plan isn't just a new list of priorities by a new administration. Instead, it reflects a significant reorientation of U.S. foreign policy. Blinken also said he plans to create a new cyberspace and digital policy bureau and wants Congress to approve a 50% increase in the State Department's IT budget.
We want to prevent cyber attacks that put our people, our networks, companies, and critical infrastructure at risk. We want the Internet to remain a transformative force for learning, for connection, for economic growth, not a tool of repression.
Blinken also highlighted modernization efforts in other areas, like building a more diverse workforce and engaging in multilateral institutions.
If we're not engaged in international institutions, then we leave a void likely to be filled by others who may not share our values and interests, or no one steps up and we squander the benefits of collective action.
What's more, Blinken noted his department has created a new office to make sure the U.S. and its partners can win elections to lead international institutions. The secretary also mentioned his department would conduct a review of its handling of the evacuation from Afghanistan.
Could we have gotten to that decision more quickly? We learned a lot in a short period of time. We learned it the hard way. We learned by doing.
The list of State Department policy priorities under President Biden omits several policies in place under former President Trump. For example, 5G security, the China challenge, Iran's threat, the socialist regime in Venezuela, and illegal immigration. Instead, the State Department under Biden is dedicating more attention to climate issues.
A court awards $10 million to a former North Carolina hospital executive in a discrimination lawsuit. He said he was fired because he's a white male. North Carolina hospital system Novant Health serves 4 states. David Duvall was Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications. In his lawsuit, Duvall said he was terminated because of Novant's diversity efforts. He says he was replaced by a black woman and a white woman. His lawyers said Novant violated the Civil Rights Act. The act prohibits gender and race discrimination in the workplace. His lawyer says there were no complaints about his performance, and he was more qualified for the position than the women who replaced him. Novant Health claims Duvall was terminated because he had poor leadership skills. After the jury's decision, Novant issued a statement saying it was extremely disappointed and is planning an appeal. A group of parents on Wednesday protested at the National School Boards Association headquarters. They're responding to being called domestic terrorists for speaking up at local school board meetings and disagreeing with what's going on in schools, such as critical race theory and controversial sex education. NTD's Melina Weiskopf reports from Virginia.
I'm here in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of the National School Board Association headquarters, where a group of parents just gathered to respond to the federal government's efforts to crack down on parents who are trying to get more involved in what their kids are learning in the classroom. Now, these moms' message is simple. They refuse to co-parent with the federal government.
You have poked Mama Bear. The lionesses are awake, and this is a movement like you've never seen because we're fighting for our kids.
It all started with a letter from the National School Boards Association calling on the Biden administration to send several federal law enforcement agencies to assess and stop what they called threats and acts of violence from certain parents, or what they referred to as domestic terrorists.
Because of the mere fact that parents are simply standing up for their children, simply speaking up peacefully in using their First Amendment rights. But let's be clear, if there were be an altercation in these school board meetings, there's the local police. You work with your community. You don't get the FBI involved in what would be a school board meeting.
In their letter, the association cited a few examples to justify their need for federal involvement. For example, an Illinois man was arrested for disorderly conduct at a school board meeting. But a Rhode Island mom tells us she was targeted by her school board for simply asking questions.
And when I did submit public records requests, my own school board turned around and publicly threatened to sue me for submitting what they thought were too many public records requests. I was just starting out by participating in education because my daughter was just entering kindergarten, and they sent a very clear message to me that if you ask too many questions and you take up too much of our time and you threaten our political agenda, we will come after you.
So why did she and these other moms start asking questions? Well, they're concerned that their children are being fed material that's harmful to their spiritual and mental well-being, such as vulgar sex education.
So you are tapping into a child's being on so many levels, and I believe very strongly can set children up for being susceptible to sexual abuse, and also even sexual addiction.
Teaching and exposing children to pedophilia, that are explicitly explaining rape and incest, these things should not be taught to children at all.
Then there's critical race theory, which is technically not taught as official material in K-12 schools, but these parents say it's deceptively woven into the lessons.
And she divided them into two groups and told the white kids and the privileged kids, you guys are the oppressors, and the other kids, you guys are the oppressed. And that is in a science class. So
we reject Marxism and communism.
And this former California public school teacher pinpoints exactly how the communist playbook has played out in America.
The communists have these 45 goals that were read into our congressional record in 1963. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. And number 41, the most disgusting of all, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Goal number 25, break down cultural standards of morality. Thus, comprehensive sexuality education and all the other pornography they're bringing into our schools. So this is a battle between good and evil, and we're on the side of good. And what's going on in our schools is evil. So it's a righteous fight because we're fighting against evil.
Now she and other parents across the country are continuing to stand up for their kids. Reporting in Virginia, Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And now the DOJ is facing a lawsuit from Michigan parents who argue the federal government's involvement is politically driven overreach. The White House says employers will not have to take immediate action against employees who don't get the vaccine in accordance with Biden's mandate, likely a response to all the pushback. And in New York City, firefighters are seeking an extension to the city's deadline. They say the mandate will cause response times to spike. White House COVID advisor Jeff Zients said employees will have weeks, not days, to enforce Biden's December 8th deadline for being vaccinated. Zients says the goal is to have people vaccinated, not to punish them. This comment suggests that employers won't have to fire employees immediately, but will have time to educate them, counsel them, and employ other measures before firing non-compliant workers.
And so these processes play out across weeks, not days. So to be clear, we're creating flexibility within the system. We're offering people multiple opportunities to get vaccinated. There is not a cliff here.
He does not expect the mandate to cause any disruptions to the U.S. economy, though some have said it's only going to make the problem of not enough Americans working worse, thus potentially exacerbating supply chain problems for one. Republicans in Congress, meanwhile, are putting forward proposals to exempt millions of American workers from mandatory vaccination. For example, Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn introduced Keeping Our COVID-19 Heroes Employed Act. It would protect essential workers from being fired just because they opt out. This comes as Biden's mandate is sparking protests around the country, and that includes many cities like Chicago, Denver, Seattle, and New York City, where the FDNY union leader says Mayor Bill de Blasio's mandates will send the city into chaos. Union President Andrew Ansbro said the mandate will lead to less workers on duty and longer emergency response wait times.
I don't think the mayor understands what's going to happen on November 1st. There is going to be a catastrophic manpower, staffing shortage. I was told not to use the word manpower. Staffing shortage if 3,500 firefighters that are currently unvaccinated are told to not go to work. We've been scraping together people to show up for work for the last several months just to keep firehouses open.
Though the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services has said the mandate is critical to combating COVID-19 and protecting communities. Ansbro said the Firefighters Association is not anti-vaccine, but is anti-mandate. And he maintained his position that unvaccinated firefighters should still report to work regardless of de Blasio's order. The mayor of LA spoke at the Los Angeles Trade Technical College to launch a program called Big Leap. Applications for this program are open from this Friday. Los Angeles City Council approved the largest Universal Basic Income Program, or UBI, in the country on Tuesday. The program will give $1,000 to certain families every month. About 3,000 people hit by the pandemic and poverty will receive the funds directly in cash every month. Councilman Curran Price introduced the Basic Income Guaranteed, Los Angeles Economic Assistance Pilot, or Big Leap program. He called on participants to contact representatives in Washington, D.C. to push for more UBI programs. LA's UBI plan originally allocated $6 million of funding to the program. The recent approval raises it to nearly $40 million. Recipients will receive cash for the next 12 months. The press beats Congress at the annual Congressional Women's Softball Game. They won 5-1. It's their 5th consecutive win at the annual event. The game was tied 1-1 in the 7th inning, but then the press took a 4-run lead and held on to it until the end of the game. The annual competition features Washington's press corps facing senators and House members. Hundreds of people watched the game live at a recreation center in Washington. The game raised over $500,000 for breast cancer awareness, but the game is not as big an event as the congressional baseball game, so some want to move it to a bigger venue to attract more attention. Just ahead, utility crews in Newark, New Jersey removed more than 22,000 toxic lead water pipes, allowing residents to safely drink the tap water. That and more here on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
More people in New Jersey have access to clean drinking water after utility crews in Newark removed more than 22,000 toxic lead water pipes from private property using a new ordinance. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Utility workers used a backhoe to yank a toxic, decades-old lead water pipe from the basement of an apartment building, removing it from the water supply for good. Residents watched with relief, hoping they could soon drink the tap water. Lead poisoning used to be a common hazard in Newark. The city says it has removed more than 22,000 lead pipes over the last few years and replaced them with copper pipes. The biggest obstacle was that the pipes were on private property.
the ordinance that allowed us to get right of entry, we didn't need the owner's permission, and the program was mandatory. Not having the owner's permission, a resident could let us in and replace the lead service line.
About 70% of the city's residents are renters, and it can be tough to track down the building owners because often the companies are not based in Newark. The city tackled this problem with a new law that allows them to enter private property without permission to fix a public health threat, removing the lead pipes and installing copper ones.
The collaboration between the state, the county, and the city, and the will to do, allow future generations in the city of Newark and the surrounding areas, right, to not potentially be exposed to lead in the drinking water.
City officials say crews have replaced most of the lead pipes in town, and utility crews are working to find and replace any they have missed. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
After Hertz announced it will order over 100,000 Teslas by the end of 2022, the rental car company will offer to rent half of them to Uber drivers. Hertz, which is coming out of bankruptcy, hopes the focus on electric vehicles will allow it to stand out against competitors.
On Monday, Hertz said it would make the largest order of Teslas ever in the electric vehicle's short history, ordering over 100,000 of them. Then on Wednesday, Hertz announced plans to offer 50,000 of those Teslas for rent by Uber drivers.
I think a lot of people now that are driving them, not all, but most, are early adopters. They like the newest technology. They like gadgets. Well, having them available at a Hertz dealership or a Hertz rental counter, that changes the whole audience, and it could make it so that you could rent one for a relatively low price compared to the price of a new car and find out whether or not this is for you or not.
Beginning on November 1, Uber drivers in Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, and Washington, D.C. will be able to rent the newly acquired Teslas. Uber said the program will expand to more cities nationwide later this year. Uber says it plans to operate only electric vehicles in the United States, Canada, and Europe by 2030 and worldwide by 2040.
I assume that a large part of this is driven by Hertz knowing what their customers want and knowing that people would be willing to or are even asking for electric cars. That would be a thing that would drive it into just from an experiment into now it can be a moneymaker.
For Uber drivers, Tesla rentals will start out at $334 a week, and the rental cost would get lower as the program expands in the coming year. Car makers in general consider partnerships with rideshare companies such as Uber and Lyft as a way to show customers what it's like to ride in an electric vehicle.
Couples tying the knot are planning way ahead just to ensure they get the right venue, photographer, and even bridal gown. NTD's Phil Zoe has the story.
There's pent-up demand for all wedding items and services, including wedding dresses.
So it's always a great thing to have a plan A, B, C, D, all the way through Z.
Samantha Goldberg is a wedding planner and the host of a variety of wedding shows, including Whose Wedding Is It Anyway?
We didn't know how great these gowns were until, you're in supply and demand. And then everybody starts ordering, and then it's this big circular issue where people are not able to get their gowns in time.
Goldberg says if you can't get the designer wedding dress overseas, try your local tailor or seamstress.
They can do it in a month, they can do it in a month and a half, and it's probably a lot less expensive than what you purchased overseas.
And it's not just wedding dresses.
Sometimes florists are not able to get everything that they need in order to do the wedding, so we need to come up with alternative, maybe focus more on colors instead of specific flowers.
Wedding photographers Alicia and Joshua have also noticed delays.
Brides are definitely having to wait on their dresses and other key parts of the ceremony.
There was that, and then we actually had another wedding where their dress and tuck didn't arrive until the day before.
Jared Judge is a wedding musician who plays up to 150 shows a year. He's trying his best to accommodate his clients.
These venues that were once available are all of a sudden completely booked out to 2022, 2023. It's difficult to reschedule.
He's offering flexibility with his bookings so newlyweds can get the wedding they dreamed of. Matthew over in Canada says, stay positive, order early, and don't give up.
When the bride called me and she told me that her bridesmaids couldn't have their dresses, so we had to go over everywhere in the right color, the right fit, the right size, and it was quite a challenge, but we made it happen all together. So we partner, the bride and I.
Phil Zoe, NTD News.
A Chinese song goes viral. It's a satirical piece of music masked as a romantic song, and it jabs at China's online warriors and communist leader Xi Jinping. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more of the details.
A Chinese language song has become an internet sensation, gathering over 10 million views in less than a week on YouTube. It's a duet satirizing the country's communist regime, posed as an innocent romantic song. The singers are Malaysian singer Nam Wee and Australia's Kimberly Chen. Why is it so popular? The lyrics contain a range of tropes that are trending on Chinese language social media. We will offer a nearly line-by-line dissection of the references it mentions. The song did not waste 1 second to begin taking jabs at the regime. It starts with a message warning, be cautious if you are a fragile pink. That's referring to China's sensitive and jingoistic online warriors, who are often called Little Pink. They typically leave aggressive comments on Chinese and foreign social media against people who hold negative views of the Chinese regime. The cotton in the footage is a reference to the Chinese regime using the ethnic minority group Uyghurs as forced labor to pick cotton in the northwestern region of Xinjiang. Then a flag bearing the online insult NMSL. That's the Chinese pinging initials of what directly translates to "your mom is dead." Little Pinks frequently wish death on the mothers of those they believe have insulted China. You never want to listen to people, but just launch constant counterattacks. I am not quite sure how I've offended you. You assume the world is your enemy. What appears to be a couple complaining about each other is actually taking jabs at the easily offended Little Pinks. Then the next line, you claim that I belong to you. Don't deny, go home quickly. You want me to explain our inseparable relationship. This refers to the Chinese regime's claim over the democratic island of Taiwan, saying it's an inseparable part of China. The regime also often asks Taiwan to return home and threatens to invade if it doesn't accept CCP rule. The apples on the table likely reference Hong Kong newspaper Apple Daily. The outlet was shut down after police stormed its office and arrested its owner for supporting the city's pro-democracy protests and its print criticism of the Beijing regime. The open restroom door with the panda inside makes fun of the fact that many Chinese public restrooms don't have doors. Then the camera shows a bat toy, referring to the origin of COVID-19, which may have something to do with bats in China. The regime often criticizes those asking for an investigation into the origins of the virus in China as anti-China racists. The next lines, it's illegal to breach the firewall, you'll be missed if the grandpa discovers it, are making fun of China's internet censorship tool, the Great Firewall. The Chinese regime has made it illegal for people to use software to bypass the wall and browse foreign websites, which can land people in prison. Someone will be missed is a phrase Chinese netizens often say to people who have irritated the CCP and therefore might be in imminent trouble. The meme comes from Communist leader Xi Jinping's 2017 New Year's speech, referring to Chinese soldiers who died for the regime. Xi's speech footage has been made into GIFs and spread on the internet. Carrying cotton and collecting his favorite honey, Common Prosperity, worked hard combat poverty, and the leek farm received 1,000 yuan salary. I'm so happy. Common prosperity is a phrase Xi Jinping promotes to guide his crackdown on different sectors and force big corporations to donate their wealth to the regime. Ordinary Chinese people often refer to themselves as leeks. That's to imply they are just faceless vegetables waiting to be harvested by the regime or the rich and powerful. The 1,000 yuan refers to China's 600 million people with a monthly income of 1,000 yuan, which equals $140. The meager number was revealed by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang last year. It's seen as ironic in the face of the regime's frequent claims about how great their economy is. Censor all sensitive terms, otherwise I'll be sent for re-education and farm hammy melon. Swallow the apple, cut off pineapples. Hammy melons are a type of famous fruit from Xinjiang. Re-education refers to Xinjiang's so-called re-education camps, which are actually concentration camps where the regime persecutes ethnic minorities. Apple is again referring to the regime's suppression of press freedom by shutting down Apple Daily, while pineapple refers to Beijing banning Taiwanese pineapple imports as a way to politically pressure Taiwan. Stop stealing from the world, you want me to bow, I can't do that. This refers to China stealing intellectual property from other countries. And the second line simply expresses that the rest of the world doesn't want to succumb to the CCP. Weibo accounts for both singers were blocked in China soon after the song was released, but their video has gone viral in regions outside of China, including Taiwan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Singapore. Namewee said on his Facebook page that he had made no mention of China in the entire song. Quote, "Yet you think every word and phrase is an insult directed at you."
Coming up, France seizes a British fishing boat to send a message to the UK. The two countries have not resolved problems of fishing privileges since Brexit began. In Switzerland, a community association connects orchards, volunteers, and fruit presses to save the fruit that wouldn't otherwise be picked. Stay tuned to find out more.
The worst genocide in human history also destroyed the lives of thousands of Jewish survivors still suffering today.
God calls on people who believe in Him to act on His word. Comfort ye, comfort my people.
Especially during this holiday season of Hanukkah.
When I come here and I sit with Lily, I realize what she needs right now is food.
These elderly Jews are weak and they're sick. They're living on $2 a day. This now is how God's children are living. Take this time to send a survival food box to these forgotten Jews.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide one survival food box with all of the essentials they critically need for their diet for 1 month. Your special holiday gift will provide everything they need to celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah.
This is the first time in over 70 years that she has anything to do with faith. The communists came and wiped it out. Your grandparents?
And now we're coming to her and we're saying, it's okay to have faith. It's okay to light the Hanukkah candles.
For just $25, you can help supply the essential foods they desperately need for 1 month.
For over 35 years, this trusted ministry has given Christians like me a way to tangibly bless Jewish people who are in need throughout the world.
God tells us to take care of them, to feed the hungry. And I pray Holocaust survivors will be given the basic needs that they so desperately pray for to survive.
An increase in security on Wednesday around the Rome venue that will host world leaders for the upcoming G20 summit. The Italian Interior Ministry said that between 5,000 and 6,000 police officers, along with around 500 soldiers, will be deployed in Rome to provide security during the meeting. Special forces will be ready to take action against serious security threats, and a system will be in operation to intercept any hostile drones flying over Rome. The summit will take place on October 30th and 31st. Among other topics, world leaders will discuss the importance of placing a specific limit on global warming. They will also seek commitments to achieve net zero carbon emissions by the middle of the century. The impact of food waste on climate emissions is an increasing concern for many. In Switzerland, a community association is connecting orchards, volunteers, and fruit presses. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports on the movement to combat apple waste.
It's apple harvest season in Switzerland, but some fruit orchard owners don't have time to collect all of them, and many are left unpicked to rot. Amelie Gosselin can't find the time or the energy to make the best of the apples her orchard produces.
It's a lot of maintenance. Last year we were able to pick some, but to our regret, we were not able to pick everything. We invited friends to help, but it was not enough to pick all the apples we had.
Now, a new community association has come to the rescue. Brothers Yvain and Gail Marone want SOS Fruit to reduce food waste. The idea came to them after helping one of their neighbors pick his fruit trees 3 years ago.
There are plenty of fruit trees that are left abandoned. I think the main reason is that people have forgotten the habit and value of these fruits, so it's easier to go and buy fruit from the Migros supermarket than to harvest their own fruit.
SOS Fruit connects volunteers with fruit tree owners online, and the picked produce is divided up.
It's an excellent idea, and everyone is a winner. It's almost revolting to think that all this would have gone wasted. Now it will be used either for juice or consumed by the volunteers. I think it greatly reduces food waste.
The apples are taken to a local fruit press to make juice. SOS Fruit brings approximately 3 tons of apples here throughout the season. The juice is pasteurized and bagged into 3 or 5 liter containers ready for sale. A 5-liter juice box costs about $11. Cyril Malfair owns the fruit press. He says he's delighted with initiatives like SOS Fruit.
It's a success because they have done something that is sustainable and has been ongoing for 2 years so far. So that's very important. Fruit tree owners have found an economical use for their trees or old orchards. It encourages them to maintain them and to plant more, which is the main objective we are looking for.
After the harvest, the volunteers sort the remaining fruit to take home their share. Some are regulars, and others have joined for the first time. Today's apple orchard was successfully stripped of all its fruit, with approximately 1,400 pounds harvested. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The Cologne Zoo in Germany proudly presents the newest addition to a zoo deer family, a tiny newborn poodoo. The pocket-sized animal won't grow very tall. Poodoos are the smallest deer species on Earth. The zoo's spokesperson says they grow barely larger than a rabbit. Poodoos come from South America. Northern poodoos live in the Andes Mountains. Southern poodoos are even smaller and live in the Patagonia region. This newborn, named Dulce, was born 6 weeks ago into a family of southern poodoos. The zookeepers have yet to determine the baby's gender and will leave the young family in peace for a while. The little cub has been happily exploring its outdoor enclosure for a few days. The pattern on young southern poodoos is spotted, almost like larger deer. The forest animals are mostly active at night and like to eat leaves, fruits, flowers, and young tree shoots. Since September, visitors at the Detroit Zoo have been able to see a not-so-common bear-cub duo. There, a polar bear and grizzly bear are best friends. We hear from an expert on how the match was made.
The Detroit Zoo has a slightly odd couple, 2 bears, 1 polar, 1 grizzly. The 2 have been together since June. The zoo put together 2 cubs together after they were both orphaned.
And then within a few weeks, they were just completely bonded. They spend all their time together now.
Jebby, the grizzly, was found wandering alone through a town in Alaska in May. Lerky was born in the zoo in November of 2020, but after she fell sick and spent some time at the vet, her mother didn't recognize her.
We were faced with raising this little polar bear by herself, or trying to find a companion. And like most animals, bears need that companionship growing up because it's important for their learning. In order for her to learn to be a bear when she's an adult, she needed to be living with a bear when she's young.
And now they're best friends.
They play really rough like bear cubs do. And at this age, they're going to play all day. And you see them out there playing in the pool now. Pretty soon it's going to be time for them to go to bed for the night because they wear themselves out.
Though still cubs, Jebby is almost 200 pounds, while Lerky is about 140 pounds.
When they're adults, they'll both go live. He'll go live with grizzly bears, and she'll go live with polar bears.
Their rough and tumble play impresses visitors.
Oh, they're just exquisite. I mean, you have the white one and the brown one, and it's a very pleasing dichotomy, like yin and yang. And what a beautiful day to see them together.
Before they grow into adults, both Jebby and Lerky can be seen together at the Detroit Zoo's Arctic Ring of Life.
People are constantly looking for better ways to improve their health. Ideally, it doesn't require too much time, commitment, money, or effort. We may have found a solution. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Some health-promoting activities that cost very little money and effort include sunbathing, grounding, and meditation. There's another activity that doesn't require anything more than a shower. It's called hydrotherapy. The age-old practice is gathering acceptance by health enthusiasts. It's a great way to increase liveliness, and it takes less than 15 minutes of your day. The benefits of hot and cold hydrotherapy. Some of the health-promoting benefits include improved circulation. Hot water increases blood flow to the surface of the body. Cold water drives blood to the core of the body. This effect increases blood flow and speeds up circulation. It also takes away toxins and pathogens. Reduces muscle pain. Hot and cold causes your muscles to expand and contract, which can create a gentle detoxification as toxins are squeezed from your muscles. Improves lymphatic flow and reduces lymph nodes. Hot and cold water stimulates the lymphatic system. It causes it to relax and contract in response to hot and cold water. This action helps to move lymphatic fluid, which may have become stagnant in the system. This can reduce buildup of fluids and ease inflammation. It also allows the immune system to attack any foreign pathogens in the fluid. Reduction of tumors. Cancerous growths can develop when proper circulation and detoxification can't be completed by the body. When this is improved, these growths can be broken down and be removed from the body. Other benefits include a boost of energy due to the removal of toxins, increased circulation, and improved mood and cognitive function. This makes hot and cold showers a great way to start the day. Here's how to do it. Get in the shower and get completely wet at a temperature that is completely comfortable for you. Slowly increase the temperature to the point you can barely stand it. Expose all areas of the body to this hotter water, including the top of your head and your face. Do this for a minimum of 30 seconds and up to 2 minutes for more effect. Now turn the water down to the coldest tolerable setting. Expose all areas of the body to this colder water. Do this for a minimum of 30 seconds and up to 2 minutes for more effect. Repeat this alternating hot and cold exposure 5 times or more, always ending with cold. At first, your hot and cold tolerance may be minimal. It's important to honor your extremes in the beginning, so take it easy. However, you should work on building up to hotter and colder temperatures to increase your tolerance and the health benefits of the routine.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV